All right, Casey, do me a favor. Out of all these cards, I want you to choose any one. Whichever one calls to you, go ahead and pull it out. All right, now don't let me see. I'm going to look all the way over here. Go ahead and look at it. And in fact, take your time and show the audience. Hold it up nice and steady so everyone in the audience gets a look as well. And don't let me see it, but stick it right back there in that deck of cards.
That's a good score.
Do I need to start it over? Or is he messing with me? Was he just messing with me? He is messing with me? Okay, so it wasn't... Or maybe you're messing with me now. All right, do me a favor. Whatever it is, go ahead and stick it inside that deck there. Stick it anywhere you want. In fact, take the deck from me so that there's no way. Go ahead and mix the cards up. And in fact, just set them on this table right over here. All right, are they there? All right, now, okay, oh, yeah, don't let me... All right, set them down so I can't peek. All right, now, Casey, I want you to stand right here. I want you to look deep into my eyes. And I want you to focus on the shape of your line. All right, I'm getting an image here. All right, Casey, this is what came into my mind. Was I right? Yes. There we go. Give Casey a big round of applause. So, how did I do it? How did I do it? What do you think? You got a guess? What's your guess?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, it could be a guess. That's a very good answer. You're the first person to ever suggest a guess. No, it wasn't a guess.
You got somebody back here.
Confederate in the audience, that's another idea. Right here? What's that? The whole deck is stars. Yeah, it could be a rigged deck. Or maybe if it's not stars, maybe there's symbols on the back that let me see what she picked. Yeah. Or what other ideas? What else you got? A setup? Yeah, because it could be that she paid. No, we didn't work anything out in advance. I didn't bribe her. The actual method... From my perspective, why don't you see what it looked like from my perspective? Imagine you're here, you're facing this way, turn around, and this is what I saw. Couldn't be easier, right? Now, I on purpose put together, this is freaking grade school magic cheesy easiness. I on purpose made it as easy as possible to show how simple a trick can be to fool some very intelligent people, which I consider you guys to be. And keep in mind, there's a friend of mine back in the 70s was part of a project where his job was to go out and fool scientists into thinking he had real ESP powers. He got these scientists to stake their reputations on the fact that he was the real deal and he was proof that ESP and telekinetic powers existed. Then he and his Confederates all came clean and said, yeah, we've been scamming you, but we did it to make a point. So we actually have plenty of cases. But see, now, and what I'm trying to tell you here is anytime you hear about somebody proving ESP, blah, 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 just remember that you're either going to find there are good controls on the experiment or you're going to find impressive results. You'll never find both in the same thing. And there's tons of stories, I wish I had time to tell you, about people who may or may not have been cheating, but certainly there was no strict controls. Back in the 60s, there was these Gansfeld experiments. I'm going to skip over this, it's kind of boring. But there's very questionable on the techniques here. Just know that anyone who's made a concerted effort to study the methods used by parascientists has walked away disappointed. But nobody believes in ESP because of some freaking study who says that ESP exists. People believe in ESP. Why? Because they had some kind of phenomenal experience that they just can't explain, right? How many of you guys have had that where maybe you want to call your friend, so you walk over to the phone, you pick up the phone, and there's no dial tone because they're already on the line? How many of you guys have had that? Ooh. How many of you guys have had that where you're thinking of a song and then you're humming the tune, you get in your car, you turn on the game, and not only is that exact song playing, but it's at the exact part where you were when you got in the car? How many of you guys have had that? Yeah. Could it be coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. I tell you what, let's go ahead and ask this. The thing is, when it comes to this, I want you to realize that very few people outside of mathematicians have a good intuitive understanding of probability. Probability is one of those things that is very hard to get a good, correct grasp of. And keep in mind that the odds of one coincidence, for example, the odds that tomorrow afternoon at 2:15 p.m., I'll get into my Jeep Grand Cherokee here in Arkansas, I'll turn on the radio, and it will be exactly halfway through the Humpty Dance from 1988. The odds of that are very, very low. But the odds that sooner or later there's going to be some kind of coincidence that's absolutely amazing, the odds of that are actually very high. And we can test this. Let's go ahead and try this out. How many of you guys would be surprised if just in the first 5 or 6 rows, 2 people here had the same birthday? Would you be surprised? A little bit surprised? I tell you what, let's find out. How many people? We got maybe 25 people here or so. I tell you what, we'll go ahead. If you hear your birthday, we'll go and call it birthdays. If you hear your birthday, raise your hand. Just stand up real quick. Mine's January 17th. What's yours? September 9th.
September 19th.
September 19th. 19th. Look at that.
I'm the same. I'm 19 too.
Oh, you're 19th. You said, wait, you're 19, you're 19, and you're 19. That's weird. So what are the odds? Ooh, what are the odds, right? Well, let's go ahead and ask. What are the odds? People think of, our intuitive understanding of probability would say if you got 23 people, there are 365 days in a year, 366 if you want to count a leap year. And so the odds are 23 out of 365, right? And if you got 35 people, then the odds must be 35 out of 365. It's amazing. The actual odds for two people in a group of 23 are 50%. And when you go to 35, it jumps to 85%. When you go to 42, it jumps over 90%. It's amazing. And so this is a case of your intuitive understanding being wrong. Let's do another one. Who wants to help me with a little idea here? A little quick experiment. You, sir, right here. You don't need to come up here on stage. What's your name, though? Stephen. Stephen, I want you to imagine I have a totally fair quarter here, right? I flip that quarter 10 times in a row. Which of these is the most likely results? That it would be heads, 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 heads. Tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails, heads. Or tails, tails, heads, tails, heads, 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 tails, heads, tails.
C.
C. How many of you guys would agree with C? That C is the most likely? Would you be surprised to find out that all three of those are equally likely? And we can prove this. Let's look at it. What are the odds that the first one's going to be heads? What are the odds that the first one's going to be heads? 50-50. What are the odds the first one will be tails? What are the odds the second one will be heads? What are the odds the second one will be tails? All the way on, all the way across. Now, the problem is the way the brain works is that we look at these and we say, oh, well, I've never seen that. And I don't think I've seen that. But I'm pretty sure I've seen something like that before, right? And so we decide that that's the most likely. It's a flawed way to do it. By the way, thank you. Give him a cheats, cons, swindles, and tricks for that. That was a very good answer. Any questions about this probability stuff? Here's my personal belief. My personal belief that in this infinite universe that we live in, that strange coincidences are not only likely to occur, but sooner or later are bound to occur. To me, it would be more amazing if bizarre coincidence didn't happen once or twice in somebody's lifetime that was too amazing to be believed. Any more? Oh, and here's a little more food for thought, just something for you guys to take home and think about and argue about with your friends. When it comes to ESP, furthermore, when you think of ESP, what organ does everyone say senses ESP? Anyone says the brain. Brain has no sensory capacity whatsoever. During open brain surgery, you poke a brain doesn't even notice. All the brain's job is to interpret the signals from the other sensory organs. We have eyes to see. We have skin to feel. We have noses to smell. And yet the brain, all it does is interpret those signals. So the brain can't sense anything. Furthermore, none of our experiments even try to detect the ESP, whatever it is. You know, for example, let's say I wanted to prove to you that we have this thing called sight. Well, what's one way to do it? Maybe I could say, well, there's this thing called light that goes into your eyes. We can measure the light using this device. But we don't have that with ESP. What we do instead is we don't try to detect how it works. We just try to play games with cards and dice. And if you win, hooray, ESP's real. You play games with cards and dice. If this had any merit whatsoever, then that means that we are running the world's largest ESP experiment in Las Vegas. And time after time in the long run, nothing but the laws of probability are winning. These casinos operate on margins as small as 0.5% probability. And they're able to stay in business. If precognition or telekinesis or any of these things had even the smallest effect on the game, these guys would be out of business. And yet, the laws of probability always win. Furthermore, there's a magician named James Randi who has $1 million in escrow currently waiting for anyone who can demonstrate any type of ESP or psychic phenomena under double-blind test conditions. So far, nobody's come any close. Any questions about any of this stuff? Cool. This is my favorite section here. We're going to wrap things up by talking about some scams that might hit you on a very personal level. And I want to talk about some health stuff. Now, I use the word scams here, and that might get people upset. Who can tell me what homeopathic, what do you think of when you think of homeopathic remedies? Oh, I see what you're nervous about. It's a Baptist university, I understand. All right.